Dear students, myself Dr. Fatima Sultana. Today's topic is indicator species. In our last lecture, I have taken flagship species and umbrella species. Today we'll be ending the chapter indicator species. Indicator species, what is it? A species whose presence, absence, or abundance reflects a specific environmental condition, habitat, or community. That is, any species whose presence or absence, whether they are present or they are absent or they are in abundance, it reflects the specific environmental condition like pollution or habitat or community. Indicator species may provide information on the overall health of an ecosystem, reflect a particular environmental condition such as pollution. It may be indicative of a particular habitat type or biological community. So what we see that in any species whose presence or absence or abundance will reflect any of the environmental condition or habitat or overall health of an ecosystem, they will be indicated as indicator species. So, indicator species can provide an early warning of environmental changes. Now, if we come to know about these species, we can understand and we can come to know about the environmental changes because these species they will provide us the early warning of what is going to happen. So, in advance, we can come to know if we closely observe these indicator species. They can be used to assess the health of an environment or ecosystem. So, they are often termed as bioindicators and they may be useful management tool. How they will be useful as a management tool because they are going to provide us in advance. They can warn us what are the environmental changes that is being approached. So in advance, if we observe these indicator species, we can come to know about the various pollution changes or the environmental changes, the climatic conditions, the habitat or the community of that particular ecosystem. Now, this sea turtle, this is being taken as indicator species because we know that an indicator species is a species whose presence, absence, or relative well being in a given environment is indicative of the health of its ecosystem. As a whole, they will reflect the healthy environment of that environment. So, by looking at sea turtles, much can be learned about the condition of the ocean. So, by seeing the population of the sea turtles or the living of the sea turtles in the ocean, we can come to know about the condition of the ocean, whether the conditions are good or bad, and in turn the planet as a whole. Because when we are coming to know about the condition of the ocean, so we are understanding our planet as a whole. This is very important because all of the major issues sea turtles are facing will eventually affect us too. Now, if in ocean these sea turtles are going to face any threats, so eventually that will affect us also. For example, oil spill, that is a pollution which is causing the change in the condition of the ocean. So at these places we will see that the sea turtles population is being affected. Now, if there are number of sea turtles and the population is flourishing very well, that means it is indicating that the ocean is good, the condition, the habit, the ecosystem of the ocean is healthy. Now, you all know that these sea turtles they have been around for about 150 million years. Since long back they are been in this world in the on this planet, and they travel from one ocean to the other ocean. That is, they travel throughout the world. And if we are going to lose this sea turtle, other parts of the ecosystem will be lost, because that indicator species, the loss of this indicator species, the sea turtle, will affect us also. So, this sea turtle is an important part of both the marine and the beach dune ecosystems. Wherever the ocean is healthy, the number of this indicator species sea turtle will be very good. Now, another species of indicator are the air quality indicators, and these are example lichens. Different amounts of lichen can tell us how much sulfur dioxide is in the air. Sulfur dioxide is a pollution, air pollution. So, by looking to this indicator species, that is the lichen, we can come to know about the quality of air in that particular habitat. Different lichens show different levels of tolerance to the pollution. For example, shrubby and bushy lichens are usually the most sensitive to pollution and are often absent from polluted areas. Wherever the sulfur dioxide concentration is very high, or we can say that the air is highly polluted, we will see that these shrubby and bushy lichens will be absent over there because they are very sensitive to pollution. Crusty lichens are usually more tolerant of pollution and can grow in more polluted areas. That is, these crusty lichens are, their tolerance power is more than that of shrubby and bushy lichens. So they can tolerate a level of pollution. So by looking at the species present in a particular area, scientists can assess the level of air pollution. Lichens, what are lichens? Lichens are plants that grow in exposed places such as rocks or tree barks. Air pollutants dissolved in rainwater, especially sulfur dioxide, can damage these lichens and prevent them from growing. So, this makes the lichens natural indicators of air pollution. Therefore, they are known as indicator species. As I have told you, bushy lichens need clean air. That is, the level of sulfur dioxide or air pollution should be almost nil. Leafy lichens can survive a small amount of air pollution, and crusty lichens can survive in more polluted air. No lichens air is heavily polluted with sulfur dioxide. Now, in any particular area, if you see any of these three lichens, you can come to know the level of pollution in that area. If we see bushy lichens, that means the air is clean. And if you see leafy lichens over there growing, then you can come to know that there is a little amount of pollution, air pollution. And if you don't see these two, and you see crusty lichens, that means the air over there is, the quality of the air is highly polluted. And if there are no lichens, that means the pollution level is very high, sulfur dioxide concentration is very high. So we can come to know about the indicator species and biotic index. Indicator species, they can indicate whether there is pollution present or not, and biotic index is an indirect measure of pollution. So assessing the relative abundance of different organisms, we can come to know the level of air pollution. For example, in this chart, you can see groups A, B, C, D, and E. Next is animals. Now, in stream, if you find mayfly nymph or stonefly nymph, that means the pollution level is little or no pollution is present in the stream. In streams, if we see mayfly nymph and stonefly nymph, these animals indicate that the stream is clean, there is little or no pollution. And in ponds, if you see dragonfly nymph and damselfly nymph, these animals will represent that in this pond there is little or no pollution. Now, in category group B, we see that catsfly larva and freshwater shrimp. If these animals, if you find these animals, but none from group A, that is, if these fly larva and this freshwater shrimp is present, but mayfly or dragonfly, stonefly or damselfly, they are totally absent. That means it shows that there is slight pollution in that water. And in next third category C, if you see this hog louse or bloodworm and no other animals from this category A and B, only you find this hog louse and bloodworm, that means the pollution level is medium. In category D, if you find this worm tubifex or rat-tailed maggots in the water and no other animal of category A, group A and B and C, you find only worms, this tubifex and rat-tailed maggot, that means there is a lot of pollution. And if you see no life, that is no live animal found, that means the water is very polluted, that is highly polluted. So these biotic index, that is the presence of these animals, will show the level of pollution. As in group A, there was little or no pollution. In group B, slight pollution, and C, medium pollution. D, a lot of pollution was there, but still, because these tubifex and rat-tailed maggots can tolerate a high level of pollution, they were surviving in that water. But if there is no animal present in that water, that means that water is highly polluted. Now in this you can see this green zone, yellow zone, orange zone and red zone. You all know the importance of these zones. So these indicator species, this mayfly, then dragonfly, freshwater shrimp, hog louse, worm, tubifex, no life. So if you see in this range, when the pollution level is low in stream, you were finding the animal mayfly nymph, and in ponds, dragonfly nymph. Where there was slight pollution, you were seeing shrimp but no other nymphs like this mayfly and dragonfly. The pollution level was medium, so you were seeing the animals hog life. Pollution level has increased, but still the animals which can tolerate like this tubifex were found. So we come to know that the pollution level is high. But beyond that, extreme level, when the pollution is at extreme, we find there is no life. So these indicator species are explaining us, indicating us about the level of pollution. Now, if there are more people, more water pollution. Why? Because waste chemicals are being dumped into rivers and seas. Sewage water, that is the sewage coming from the cities, from our houses, fertilizers which are being used for crops, and even the toxic chemicals which are used as pesticides end up in rivers and lakes. Where all this goes, they all go in the river. So toxic chemicals such as pesticides and herbicides may be washed from land to water. Whatever toxics are there, on the land, they are ultimately washed towards water. And what is water? River or lake. So, indicator species can show how polluted the water is. Now, if you find mayfly larva, this means water is very clean. There is no pollution over there. And if you find water snails or worms, that is tubifex worm, then water is more polluted. And if there is no life in the water found, that means that water is very polluted, extreme level that is. Now, if a river has mayfly in it, what does this tell you about the level of pollution in water? It indicates that the water is clean and there is little or no pollution. Why do farmers need to be careful when fertilizing their fields that run alongside rivers? You might have seen many times along the river sides you see number of agricultural lands. Those farmers should be very careful while fertilizing their fields. Why? Because we know that any toxic chemicals or pesticides, fertilizers, they are washed from land to water. And if their agricultural land is very near to the river, they will easily reach that water. So, to restrict or to see, check that these chemicals are not reaching that water level, the concentration of fertilizers that are being used in their field should be controlled. So, where there is clean water, we see more invertebrates, and where there is pollution in the water, we will see less invertebrates. So, we see that these invertebrates are acting as the indicator species for us to explain us more about water pollution. Similarly, we all know water acid rains, heavy metals, pesticides, oil spills, or other chemicals, and even the nitrates from fertilizers. All this, where it is going, it will go from land to water. Now, many aquatic animals can't survive in polluted water. So, their presence or absence can indicate the level of pollution in a water body. As I have already mentioned you, the various categories. Similar is this chart also. If the indicator species stonefly nymph is found, then it shows that pollution is that these indicator species are sensitive to pollution. And freshwater shrimp, they are moderately tolerable. They can tolerate a little amount of pollution, medium amount of pollution. And tubifex worms, they are more tolerant. They can withstand high pollution level also. So the biotic index, which is more than 10, it shows that the stream is good and clean. That is, there is less or no organic pollution. And if it comes in between 3 to 9, that shows that the pollution is average and the pollution level is moderate. And if it is 0 to 2, it shows that the water quality is poor and the substantial organic pollution, that is the size, the amount of the pollution level is high. Now next example is indicator species, in which frog is one of the example. An example of an indicator species is frog. Now why do you think they are? Why frogs are also taken as indicator species? We know that frogs are amphibians. They can live both in water and land. So there, so how, what is the integument character of these frogs? It is moist, slimy, slippery type, having slime moist on their skin. So because they have a typical type of integument, because we know that amphibians, they are amphibious, that is both land and water. Whereas if you see the character of reptile, their skin is hard and scaly, and the skin of amphibians is moist and slimy. So what we see that the pollutants transfer easily through the skin. Now if pollution level is high in the water, it can easily transfer from through the skin and cause harm to those frogs. For example, tumors may grow on the frogs, inside the frogs, or they can harm in direct or indirectly, and reducing the population of those frogs. So in any water body, if there is good amount of population of frogs, that indicates that the water is clean. Similarly, the presence and absence of otter also reflects the specific environmental condition of water. The presence of otter in rivers indicates a healthy, clean river system. And we are very fortunate that Chambal River also comes in the category of clean and healthy river, because we have this population of water in Chambal River. The upside stream of Chambal River near Rautbhata and Bhansrodgarh area, we see a good population of otters. So otter is also one of the indicator species, because the presence of this river otter indicates a healthy, clean river system. Now birds. Birds as indicators of ecosystem health. We say that birds are indicators of ecosystem health, because birds provide many direct and indirect contribution to ecosystem. They occupy these because they are often providing ecosystem services. And what are those ecosystems services? Those are pollinators. They are acting as pollinators, they are acting as seed dispersers, agents of biological control, birds as keystone species, birds as a source of joy and inspiration. We all know what are ecosystem services. Whatever we get from the ecosystem for the benefit of human being, that is ecosystem service. So birds are contributing it directly or indirectly to the ecosystem where they occupy, and they are often called as ecosystem services. Now as pollinators, we know that there are few birds which feed on nectar of the flowers. So nectar feeding birds are important pollinators. They move from one flower to other to take the nectar. In return, the pollens are attached to these birds, and they help in pollination. That is, the pollen from flower to flower is being shifted or transferred, and this helps to fertilize. So it is helping in fertilization the seeds that will become new plants. Now the seeds which are developed in the fruit, they are going to become new plants. For example, hummingbirds, orioles, honey creepers, these are all the hummingbirds. They are nectar feeding birds. So they are acting as pollinators. Next is seed dispersers. Now, whenever the birds they eat fruits, they will disperse the seeds somewhere else. For example, in this picture, you can see a green and black fruit eater. It is swallowing the whole berry. Now, after digesting that fruit, the seed will be regurgitated far from where it was eaten. For example, it is eating at one place, the seed is being dispersed somewhere else. So, they are helping as seed dispersers. Next is the agents of biological control. Birds occupy most levels of trophic webs because we know there are a number of birds which are insect eating birds. So they eat hundreds of insects. So they are controlling the population level of that prey and predator species. Insect eating birds include flycatchers, warblers, bluebirds, and woodpeckers. Birds as keystone species. Some birds are considered keystone species as their presence in an ecosystem affects other species indirectly. For example, woodpeckers. Now, what is the nature of woodpecker? It creates cavities in the trunks of trees, and that cavities can be used, are used by small owls. Similarly, cavity formed by the nesting ducks, swifts, bluebirds, swallows. To the when one bird is making some cavity, that cavity is being used by some other animal or another bird. So they are also acting as keystone species. Now, birds as a source of joy and inspiration. On a less quantitative level, birds provide human with pleasure, joy, and spiritual inspiration merely by their presence. Because bird watching these days has become a very good ecotourism and has become major economic force in many parts of India. So we see that birds are also indicator species and they indicate about the healthy ecosystem. Wherever they are, there are a number of birds. We come to know about the health of that ecosystem. And birds are those animals which are easily studied and observed, and many scientists have been working on different types of birds regularly. Now, these indicator species they are often used as gauge by scientists. That is, as I had told you, they are being used as a management tool by scientists and researchers to determine if the ecosystem is healthy or not. Their absence or presence in a habitat usually indicates whether the environment is toxic or healthy enough to support life. So if we see number of birds, migratory or residential birds coming to any area, that indicates that ecosystem is healthy. And if we see that the number has been reduced, that may indicate about the level of toxic in that environment. For example, long years back, coal miners they used to take canary bird along with them when they descended into newly dug tunnels. What is the work of coal miners? They dig tunnels type to bring out the coal from the depth of the earth. So when they descend any newly dug tunnel, they will descend into a newly dug tunnel. They take along the canary bird with them. Why they are taking this canary bird? Because canary birds are very sensitive to toxics, that is, fumes like carbon monoxide. Now, if the bird died when they were in the tunnels, that alerted them to evacuate the tunnel. So, what is this indicating? This canary bird? It is indicating the toxic level present in that tunnel. So, being sensitive when there was no toxics or no fumes like carbon monoxide, the bird was living. Now, as soon as the bird died, it indicated that the toxics are high, and it alerted those coal miners to evacuate, yani leave the tunnels. So we see that how the bird is helping the coal miners, that is indicating the coal miners about the level of toxic inside the tunnels. Now tigers also are indicator species, and we all know tiger is a unique animal which plays a pivotal role in the health and diversity of an ecosystem. Whenever we talk about a tiger, save tiger, we say save tiger, save forest, save ecosystem. Tigers are the top predators which are at the apex of the food chain and keeps the population of wild ungulates in check, thereby maintaining the balance between prey herbivores and the vegetation upon which they feed. So the tiger being on the top at the apex of the food chain, it is controlling, it is keeping the balance of the whole ecosystem because it is preying on the herbivores, and these herbivores which are feeding on the vegetation, so indirectly they are controlling the vegetation. Therefore the presence of tigers in the forest is an indicator of the well-being of the ecosystem. So if tigers are present in the forest, that indicates the healthy ecosystem. If the tigers go extinct, the entire system would collapse. This apex animal, if this gets extincted, the entire system would collapse. That is why the Tiger project has a great importance because it is very essential to save this top predator to keep the entire system healthy. Thank you so much.